And criminal activity. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Proposed fines are exactly that, and they are often litigated, reduced, or vacated. We use available public records, news accounts, and press releases. We cannot warranty or guarantee the details of any of the stories we share, since we are not directly involved with these stories, at least not most of the time. Enjoy the show.
This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
And, pardon me, from the border of liberty and prosperity in the highway to the north, this is Safety Wars for Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. How's everybody doing? Hope your long holiday weekend was well. I know mine was. Got some new Safety Wars for him on. I got the hat. I got the baseball jersey. Safety Wars. Got a lot of comments on that online and offline. Someone said it looks like I'm some kind of a gangster. I don't know. So, here we are. Juneteenth was yesterday. Marked the end of slavery. It's the day that we use to mark the end of slavery in the United States. However, the original Juneteenth was June 19th, was, as I understand it, the end of slavery in Texas. And some of the states did not officially legally end state slavery until 1905. That was Delaware. We're still suffering from the fallout of slavery in this country. Hopefully we're all going to get along eventually and solve these problems. Let's not forget where we came from and where we are now. Like the old commercial used to say for, I think it was Virginia Slims, "You've come a long way, baby." Right? Dealing with women's rights. We've come a long way with our racial divide in this country. We got a long way to go in some corners of our society. And that, too, is part of the safety war we're always fighting here. So where have I been? Busy week, man. End of the year parties. We're going to have the summer solstice coming up tomorrow or whenever. What is that? Tomorrow or Thursday, where all I know is that I'm going to have about 38-year-olds and 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds over here tomorrow. We're going to have a big get-together. My son had his elementary school graduation tonight, this morning, and I kicked right into my maritime outreach trainer refresher from the University of California, San Diego conference. Something to really look at here. I don't know what this is like. I don't know if this is a trend. This should be a concern. This should be anything else. I don't know. So the maritime trainer refresher, which we had to take every 4 years of your maritime outreach trainer, was canceled in New Jersey, right? Was canceled in the northwestern area. I believe it was Bremerton, Washington, Northern California, and everybody went into the one in San Diego, University in California, San Diego. It's done remotely. You don't have to actually go there, which is nice. It's like a holdover from the COVID-19 stuff. And how many people were there, do you think? Including the trainer and the assistant trainer, for lack of a better word. I don't know what the exact title is. They have 2 trainers, 4 people. And 3 of us were there because of classes being canceled. I think the shipping industry, right, is on the decline here as far as shipbuilding. Marine terminals is going to be there, right? Longshoring is going to be there. But shipyards, which is what most of the people who take that course are involved in, not there. No, we're getting fewer and fewer ships being built here. More ships being built overseas is the sense that I'm getting. I don't know how the exact numbers, but this is what I've read through the years. And the number of federal shipyards is dwindled, I believe, to 2 here. Let me do a quick Google on here. Number of federal shipyards. Number of federal shipyards and list of shipbuilders and shipyards. Let's see here. I'm going off of Wikipedia here. We have in United States a number of them. A whole number of them, but a lot of them are closed. A lot of them are smaller ones. So I don't know. I'm always told that we don't have enough shipyards. There are. Here you go. Oh, here it is. Nation shipyards. This is from maritime.dot.gov from 2021. The nation's private shipyards support $42.4 billion in gross domestic product, right? Shipyards create good jobs. In 2019, the nation's 154 private shipyards directly provided 107,000 jobs, and 107,000 jobs contributed $9.9 billion in labor income to the national economy. And then going on, there are 154 shipyards spread across 29 shapes. There are more than 300 shipyards engaged in ship repairs who are capable of building ships, but not actively engaged in shipbuilding. This is from the Biden administration. So there's 154 private shipyards, 300 shipyards engaged in ship repairs or are capable of building ships, but not actively engaged in shipbuilding. This is part of the safety war. What's going to happen with our foreign ships here, right? With the if we get into a war like World War II, some argue that we're already in a war with World War III. That's part of the debate here. With this, we don't have the capacity, and we all know that safety is about capacity. And one part, capacity and resiliency. Part of the safety war. But I lament that. With that, let's see how many U.S. Navy are being built. So right now, 85 or more are ships are either in the planning or ordering stage or under construction. Okay. All in there. But anyway, I digress. Not a lot of opportunity there. It seems like the most of the shipyard trainers are already working for shipyard companies. So I don't know, 107,000 workers not required except on new U.S. Navy contracts for the shipping industry. That means the outreach training is not required. So I don't know. One of those things. Something else I heard on the news today. I wasn't able to get this on a story, but it's along the lines of young people. A survey came out where young people don't feel inspired, feel that their life has no meaning, and this is either leading to the mental health crisis or a result of the mental health crisis that we're facing in this country. And I was approached. I deal with a lot of different people, a lot of different families. We were approached, about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, at at a family event, a sporting event, something like that. Memory is a little bit hazy, where uh, a one of the daughters of a friend of the family had said, "Well, I hate school. I feel like I have no meaning. Blah 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 blah." And I said, "You know what? I can relate that. I didn't really do too well in grammar school or high school. I was a pretty good student, but no, not straight A's. I always took the most challenging programs, so there's no freaking way I was going to get straight A's. But anyway, the I said, look, this is setup for the rest of your life. This is setup. Does your life have to have meaning, some type of meaning? Like, I think it's a result of social media where we're supposed to be working on all these big ideas, and we're 13 and 14 year olds are asking too much of them. You want to find meaning? If you found meaning in whatever in that age, great. But guess what? If you're, could be self-limiting. I explained to this girl. So it could be self-limiting. Go out there, see what you like, see what what interests you. That's one thing that I was never exposed to, was the whole entire wide breadth of life. The things that you could be doing as a young person. Try different things. Eventually, you're probably going to find out what you like, what you'll be inspired for. And the thing is, how are you going to be effective in what you're going to be inspired for? You're going to need an education. You're going to need, at a minimum, I'm going to tell you, it's a lot easier if you have a high school diploma, if you have a bachelor's degree, because then the chances of you being able to impact things are much more. But let's not forget, right? The A students work for the B students, right? The C students own the companies, right? Right? And just the way the old story goes, and then the D students do something, and then going on, right? And that, so you have to have a setup. You have to have a basis of your knowledge, of experience. Then you're better able to go and impact the world. One of the things is leadership ability. Some people are natural born leaders. Some people learn to be leaders through example, through study, through trial and error, through practice. Right? This is what I'm going to be doing tomorrow for my final exam, for lack of a better word, for the training, is a lot about the leadership. So if you can learn about how to be a leader, put it into practice. Start simple, go hard, right? Then you again have a better chance of finding some type of purpose in your life, finding some type of inspiration. And then inspiration and discipline is a very dangerous thing, because you'll be unstoppable on that. So we're going to go into this. We're going to take a break for a minute, then we're going to come back. Sorry I came on late, but we've got, like I said, a lot of stuff going on here. And we'll be back in a minute.
In the professional safety community, communication and planning are just a few keys to your program's success. The question many practitioners have is, where do I start? Dr. Jay Allen, the creator of the Safety FM platform and host of the Rated R Safety Show, has built a global foundation to help you along the way. Go to safetyfm.com and listen to some of the industry's best and most involved professionals, including Blaine Hoffman with the Safety Pro, Sam Goodman with the Hop Nerd, Sheldon Primus with the Safety Consultant, Jim Pozell with Safety Wars, Emily Elrod with Unapologetically Bold, and many others. As individuals, we can do great things, but as a team, we become amazing. Dial into safetyfm.com today and surround yourself with a powerful force of knowledge and support.
In a world where danger lurks in every corner, one man stands as a beacon of hope. Jim Polzel, a veteran safety expert with over 3 decades of experience, now bringing his knowledge to you with Safety Wars. Engaging, informative, and always relevant, that's Safety Wars. Join a safety revolution with Safety Wars, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts and videos.
OSHA recordables, catastrophic losses, environmental disasters. You want answers? So do I. This is Jim Polzel with Safety Wars.
That's my daddy.
That's right, Jessica. I'm your daddy. So we will go with our regular news and views. Federal investigation finds Jacksonville facility failed to improve worker safety procedures despite nearly 200 violent incidents in 2022. This is out of Jacksonville, Florida. Findings of a federal workplace safety investigation are shocking. Workers assaulted, confined by patients, and suffering broken bones and concussions and wounds from being scratched, bitten, punched, and kicked at a Jacksonville behavioral health and substance disorder facility. Perhaps more shocking is how often and for how long employees at that facility, and it has a whole thing, who operates and everything. We don't normally go into that. Endured regular and often intense incidents of workplace violence. Reports of 182 alleged incidents in 2022, nearly 70% of which required police response in a 6-month period, and 10 alleged violent incidents less than 2 months in late 2022. So there was an OSHA investigation done, and the agency has proposed $15,625 in penalties. Let's look up that citation. By the way, I'm going to point out that something like it's an outrageous number of people that are killed every year for workplace violence. We're talking like it approaches like the number of people dead from falls. So why this isn't a bigger issue, I have no freaking idea with this. Shows you where we put our emphasis in our society. Type of violation, serious. Citation 1, item 1 is of the general duty clause, where the employer did not furnish the employment and a place of employment which were free from recognized hazards that were likely to cause death or serious physical harm to employees. So basically, the employees were exposed to physical threats and assaults, such as being bitten, kicked, punched, scratched, and sexually assaulted when interacting with patients, when providing care, attempting to de-escalate patients, and engaging in daily activities. Assaults have resulted in injuries, including scratches, contusions, abrasions, and bites, and they have all the other stuff. So among what OSHA's argument here is that that there were feasible methods of applying that they could do. So let's go over really quick, and I always have to look this up so I don't screw it up. 4 things necessary for a general duty clause violation. I always Google this because it's really important that I not mess this up. And as everyone knows here, I don't look at the stories prior to opening them. So you are getting my pure, in most cases, my pure unadulterated commentary here. And last year, by surprise, one of the jobs that were mentioned, I was very familiar with. So that goes into our disclaimer where I'm not usually involved, but sometimes I am. So the 4 things you need for a general duty clause violation. 1, the employer failed to keep the workplace free of a hazard to which employees of that employer were exposed. The hazard was recognized. The hazard was causing or likely to cause death or serious physical harm, and there was a feasible and useful method to correct the hazard. So you need those four elements, ands, after each one of those, to have a general duty clause violation. So, again, there was a hazard here. This is according to OSHA, right? There was a hazard, right, that they were exposed to. The hazard is recognized. Workplace violence is recognized. The hazard was likely to cause death or serious physical harm. I think sexual assault, biting, concussions, and all that other stuff, I think that's a shoo-in for that one. And now OSHA is into, there was a feasible and useful method to correct the hazard, right? So security officers, trained to respond to aggressive, violent behavior. Doctors are readily available to authorize emergency treatment orders during the night shift when violent and aggressive patients are not responding to existing medical treatment. Create a comprehensive workplace violence program and provide employees who will have direct interaction with patients, including but not limited to, and then all this stuff. Equip everybody with personal panic alarms, body alarms, or reliable means of communication. Provide training on the equipment and ensure it is inspected. Make physical changes to the facility to reduce patient attacks, that's prevention through design, and evaluate the effectiveness of existing controls. So, and make sure that's all documented. That's $15,625 in fines on that general duty clause. So what does it come down to? And I've had discussions with people in the healthcare system here. This is a major problem. Workplace violence in these situations. I know a good family friend works in a corrections facility, and that person tells us a lot of different things that go on with this. She was working as outside of this in her prior employment, and again, problems. The big issue that I see with all of this stuff are two things. One, you can't be in control of what the other person's going to do. Just like with driving a car. I had this conversation with my 11-year-old today. He didn't want to put on a seatbelt. I said, look, I'm a safe driver. I said, for the most part. I'll talk to my wife. She has something else to say. So I'm a safe driver. But I can't control what anybody else does or any of the other circumstances on the outside of this automobile. So you're going to put on a seatbelt. Real simple. Or we're not going to baseball practice. And that's basically what it came down to. Seatbelt went on. So, and just the worst situation, and that's number one. Number two is you can't control the other people. Number two is a little old thing that we have a problem with in this country. I think it's one of the leading problems that we have with all these government policies. It is called sovereign immunity. The government's not responsible for anything. They're not liable for anything. Now you're going to say, well, how does this work in with workplace violence? Let's say that this is remember, OSHA only applies to private employers. State employers are, if they have a program, they're covered under some type of state program, and they're doing, generally speaking, they're doing a less than optimal, I'll be polite, less than optimal job at protecting government and workers. They are what it is. They got rid of sovereign immunity, and you can start, like in certain states where the employer is not doing their job, they're getting a criminal investigation. I think that would probably go a long way to resolving the problem. I can tell you horror stories with government work and the government workers. Maybe I will one day. Shared it with Jay Allen. He was like shocked, but he really wasn't. Shared it with Sheldon Primus on this network also. And he said, forget about it, man. That's a battle I've been waging for years. but we're still going to wage it because we are in a safety war. Here you go from Gurnee, Illinois. An Illinois pizza manufacturer faces $2.8 million in penalties. I think we talked about this last week after an investigation into 29-year-old Sanitation Works' death. And we went into this in depth on the 15th, which was Thursday, I believe, last Thursday. But this is a temporary staffing agency that exposed a lot of people to a lot of stuff. So 16 willful egregious violations, 1 willful and 12 serious violations. What were some of the things? Lockout, tagout, machine guarding, fall hazards, exposing workers to the risk of electrical hazards, not ensuring adequate electrical personal protective equipment usage, and exposing workers to potential eye injuries. And basically safety glass issues. And what it came down to was a person died. What were the details? Severe fatal injuries while working in an overnight shift under the supervision of a company. And again, temp agency. What often happens is the employer, right? The employer is technically I don't know if there's this case, but technically, usually the employer, the paycheck is coming from a temp agency. The temp agency is hired by the host. I'll call him the host employer. So this is where people get tripped up often with this. I don't know if this is the case here, but I've worked with a lot of temp agencies. The host employer gets these workers in from the temp agency, and they start directing them as to what to do. They, in effect, become, and I'm not an attorney here, but in effect, as far as OSHA is concerned, they are now acting as the employer. As far as health and safety is concerned, they're giving them means and methods and everything else. So this is the case where you get wrapped up. So if you're using a temp agency, realize, in effect, you are, it's a similar thing, parentis locus, right? Parent in the locality, right? Acting on behalf. You're acting on behalf of the employer, which is the temp agency. You're out there, you're directing them, you're giving them often PPE and everything else. That's why a lot of general contractors, right? I tell them, look, you're hiring these subcontractors. You can't be careful on how deep you get into their guvno. Be careful, because if you're giving them means and methods, and now you're on the leash, and now this is what happens here with this. And I suspect that's what happened here. Hostess Brands. Oh, I'm sorry. I did not mean to say that. Again, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. A well-known company faces a $298,000 penalty after federal investigators find the company's safety, training failures led to a worker's amputation injury. Inspectors determined the facility did not follow the required machine shutdown procedures. A 29-year-old worker suffered the amputation of a fingertip while reassembling a pump at a company in Chicago, an injury the employer could have prevented by ensuring to shut down and lock out, tag out the equipment for lockout, tag out. 1910-147 to prevent it from unexpectedly starting during maintenance. Inspectors with OSHA investigated after the company reported the December 2022 injury and found the employer did not train workers on lockout, tagout procedures. But you can. 845-269-5772 or jim@safetywords.com. So they got 1 willful and 1 repeat violation. And they are now part of they're being heavily scrutinized. I'll leave it at that. I have the citation in front of me right here. Let's scroll on down and see what it says. Citation 1, item 1A, and you always gotta love that 1A. All right. Type of violation serious. Under 1910-147, procedures did not clearly and specifically outline the scope, purpose, authorization, rules, and techniques to be utilized for the control of hazardous energy and the means to enforce compliance, including but not limited to a specific statement of the intended use of the procedure, procedural steps. Basically, it sounds to me like it was a generic lockout tagout thing, and a lockout tagout has to be specific here. And they list the machineries here. Machines here was an electric guillotine, a wrapper, and they listed everything here. Like 15 different machines here. I didn't count them, but it looks like 15 here. And it was $15,000 fine. Citation 1, item 1B. Serious. Procedure was not utilized to afford the employees a level of protection equivalent that provided the implementation of a lockout tagout device. 0. Citation 1, item 2, serious. No training on any of this. $15,625. Citation 1, item 3, serious. Machine guarding issue, 1910-212. That was $12,278. And this one is serious. Citation 1, item 4A. 7 foot high or more. We talked about this last week, 1910-219. So if you have something that's less than 7 foot tall, you got to have high, and the hazard is less than 7 foot high, got to have some type of guarding on here. Citation 1, item 4B. Vertical or inclined shafting, again, that's another one, right? Anything less than 7 foot, got to have some type of guarding on it. And I'm looking for the unguarded projecting shaft end did not present a smooth edge. 1910-219, again, a sharp edge, 12,000. Here's another one, sprocket wheels and chains, not guarded. And here we go. Here's the big one. Type of violation, willful serious. Procedures, and this is 1910-147, procedures are not developed, documented, and utilized for the control of potentially hazardous energy when employees were engaged in activities covered by that section. So, didn't develop procedures, $156,000 and some change. Here's another one. Willful serious. Again, no procedures established on this. And what was this? 0. We have a citation 3, a repeat one, meaning that they've done it in the recent past. No auditing of the program. 1910-147 C6I. Right? That was a repeat one. That's 73,000 and change. So there you go. There you have it, folks. As a famous vlogger did, named his videos. Federal investigators find Alabama tire shop did not follow procedures to protect workers on a rim and tire failure after an explosion. Again, there are guards and things of that nature for air compressors and putting tires in a filling up tires. Often they have to be in a cage. $14,511. Let's see what they cited them for. Citation 1, item 1, 1910-177, tires on a single-piece rim wheel were not contained within a restraining device positioned behind a barrier or bolted on the vehicle with the lug nuts fully tightened. On or about January 18, 2023, and at times prior thereto, the employer exposed employees who struck by hazards, and that employees were allowed to inflate tires on single-piece rim wheels with no restraining device or barrier. Wow, I did not know that. And we have 1910-177 G8. The employer did not ensure that employees stay out of the trajectory when inflating a tire on a single piece rim area. Another one. G10. Basically the same thing. And total number of violations, what was the $14,511? What I'm trying to see here. Okay, this is basically it. OSHA inspectors learned the air compressor the two workers used had been set to inflate the tire at 110 pounds per square inch, and when the tire that exploded had a maximum load carrying capacity of 35 pounds per square inch. So apparently the tire struck a mechanic when it exploded, flew upward, broke through the ceiling, and landed on the roof. Hopefully the guy did not get hurt. So that's what we have for tonight. We have a shortened program here tonight where we talked about stuff. And how many more minutes do I have here? On the Safety FM network, let's hit resume. This clock, always I have to refresh it. Very frustrating. So that's what we got for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow night, God willing. Probably going to be a recorded program. See you tomorrow.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.